Hey everyone, it's really nice to have you all back. For those of you who are here for the first time, hi, I am Akriti Sharma and I work in the AI and data domain. I work for a startup where we focus on creating analytics, visualizations, and work through service based projects that deal with things like computer vision, NLP, and then I come back here and share what I've been learning on Medium, Twitter, and I'm now just starting with YouTube. So thank you for my being a part of my journey here. Next thing, if you have not started the 15 days of SQL right now, I've just posted the full schedule in the chat. You can start, and the previous day video is just 30 minutes long and it'll take you through the entire process of how you should get started, what are the things that we covered in the first video. So you can catch it up there. It's linked to the playlist, the entire 15 days of SQL playlist available on my channel. It's arranged in a chronological format. So the first video would be from yesterday, and now from now on, each day you'll have a live scheduled. So you can turn your notifications on and join me on this learning journey each day. So thank you for being here. Thank you all for joining. Let's get started with what was promised for today. I hope the blog and the tutorial which I shared was useful and you had a nice time learning. Let's go through the concepts and practice some of the questions related to it now. So there are a few things, which you just can't go about. Like if you are a JavaScript developer, if you're a Python developer, there are functions which there are if cases. No matter how much complex or how much simple code you write, you would always have to go about these sorts of functions. And all of this calculation is based on one only thing, which is operators. Be it arithmetic operators like plus, minus, into, divide, or some logical operators, which we'll be learning now. So how they are important in SQL is they help you filter data. Most of the times we don't want to deal with the billions of rows available. We want to filter the data according to our needs, and our needs are translated in the form of conditions which are written with the help of these operators. So operators are nothing but a way to transform data, wrangle it, and check through conditions whether the data satisfies our condition or not. Operators can be classified to two main categories, that is comparison and arithmetic operators. The comparison operators are likewise equal to, if you want to check if the value in your column is equal to a certain specified value or not, or if you want to see, there are some cases where we want all of the values excluding something. So we'll say we want everything which is not equal to a certain value, which is expressed through these angular brackets, not angular brackets, sorry, the less than, greater than sign, and this exclamation equal to. So people who have coded before, you must be aware of this exclamation equal to. This is used to express not equal to. But in the other programming languages, to check if something is equal to something or not, we use double equal to, whereas that is not the case in SQL. In SQL, we just use a single equal sign. So keep that in mind. Then again, we have our usual mathematical operators like greater than. So the value on the left hand side would be greater than the value on the right hand side. That is what it checks. Or the next less than, that is the value on the left hand side, whether it is lesser, to the right hand side or not. Next is another addition to these two operators, which is greater than or equal to. So it not just checks whether the left side value is just greater, but it also evaluates to true in case the left hand side value is just equal to the right hand side value. Same with the less than equal to. It checks whether it is less than or if it is equal to. So pretty same English. We are used to it. We have used it in basic math, I guess elementary school math. So very easy. Next, how we can use it is, for example, I want to see that I just want to go to places and select from my flights which have a flight time of less than an hour. Okay, so I'll say where. Where is again something which we have discussed in the previous lesson. Where is a clause used to filter data on the basis of some condition, and such conditions are constructed through these operators which we just discussed. These operators are what help us construct the conditions which we use to filter data with our where clause. So when I want the actual flight time to be less than 60, I'll say select all of the tutorial flights only and only if they satisfy this condition, that is the flight time is less than 60. So I'll use the less than operator here and 60. The second example here is if I want all of the flights except the flights which go to New York. Okay, I don't like New York maybe. So I don't want to go there. So I'll say the destination city should be anything but New York. So that is destination city not equal to New York. This particular condition, it will yield true to all of the values of destination city who are not New York. So be it San Francisco, be it Ohio, be it London, wherever the flight goes, it will say true till it reaches New York. When it reaches New York, it will compare this and it says not equal to, which is true. So we'll say okay, we don't want this because the New York is equal to here and not equal to. So if all of this was a little bit complex, let's go back and try getting hands-on with our query, and I'm pretty sure then we'll be able to address this in no minute. So all of you, I hope you have a mode account now. Let's go and practice from here. I will add the tutorial link in the chat as well. So please be hands-on here. Programming cannot be taught in a theory lecture. I wouldn't want you to learn programming as a theory part, but something which is really hands-on and which you're practicing. A lot of people wrote their first line of SQL code yesterday and they've tweeted about it and it was really happy. I was really proud of seeing that. So if you're doing that right now, please go ahead and write your SQL codes and make yourself proud. And then tweet about it so you're accountable and more people know that you're learning, what you're up to, and you can make better connections and increase your network. Okay then, let's get started. Yes, so we said, did the West region ever produce more than 50,000 housing units in 1 month? Let's see if it did. So first, there are two parts to this query. We need first the West region. And what is the tutorial set being used here? This. Okay. So let's say for all of the people who, if this is your first time writing SQL, so select is used to choose a bunch of columns. You can give it a comma separated list of column names and it will select all of those columns from the table. After you are done, if you want all of the columns, you can be smart and just write a star asterisk and it will select all of the columns for you. Next, once you have specified what all columns you need to tell where are those columns stored. So you will say the database followed by a dot and the table name. So here we are using tutorial.us housing units because that's what the tutorial was previously using, and I thought the questions would be from the same table itself. So let's see once what the data actually has. So what this query will do, it will print all of the rows and all of the columns for my tutorial housing units. So now we see that we have something called year, month name, south, west, midwest, and northeast. So I think the question here is that if for any time the west crosses 50,000, and by what I see that these housing units are expressed in a unit of 1,000. So this is not just 17, not 17 housing units, but 17,000 housing units. So now that the question is whether West ever goes above 50,000. So what I'll say, I'll put filtering here, because what we need to do is we need to select certain things out of my entire table. So I'll select few things and it says West. So for any of the months here, each month here is one row. So what it says is, for all of the entries present in your table, if the column West ever went above 50. So any guesses which operator should we use here when we want to check whether West ever went above 50 or not? You can type in the chat box, or if you don't want to, it's completely alright. Let's go ahead. So when we want to check, the question here was ever produced more than 50,000. Okay, when it says more than, I know that I want to check something which is greater. So I'll say if West ever was greater than 50. I'll use the greater than. It never said greater than or equal to, so I'm not using greater than or equal to. So let's see. We want to check if the column West value was for any of the rows was above 50 or not. And when you look at the results, you will see that it only returned 3 rows, and those 3 rows are all of those rows where the column West, I'll zoom in for you and you will be able to see, the column West is always greater than 50 here, 50.5, 51.8, 54.2. So only 3 rows were selected, and all those 3 rows, what did they have in common? That is, their West value was greater than 50, which was what we specified while filtering data, that we want the region to be greater than 50. So region West, which is a column, and what we are checking is if that row has that column's value greater than 50 or not. If it does, that row is included. If it does not, that row is not included. Okay, is this clear? Yeah, thanks Saurabh, you gave the right answer. Is this much clear? The first question that we solved, using a comparison operator, which is the greater than operator. Let's move ahead then. Next question which we have here is that they want to see if the South region ever produced 20,000 or fewer. 20,000 or. So what they want is that the South column, so we'll say South here first, ever produced 20,000 or fewer. That is, even 20,000 is okay, you can include it in your query, or you can go for fewer. So either 20,000 or fewer, so less than 20,000. So which comparison operator do you think would be helpful here? Okay, you all give up, so shall I tell the answer? 20,000 or lesser. So here what we are dealing with is, since they include the value, so we know that there is going to be an equal to sign, and they also say or lesser. So what we'd be doing here is, we'll go with South and we'll say less than, since we want to include the values which are lesser, and we want to include the value which is just 20,000. So we'll say South less than equal to 20. Okay. So now when you see, it returned 4 rows, and all of the rows here are, if you can see, are the ones which have their South value less than or equal to 20. So 17.3, 20, 18.8, 19.9. So the answer to this, that whether the South region ever produced 20,000 or fewer, is yes, and that occurred 4 times in 2011 and 2012. when the south region went below 20,000, went at 20,000 or below. So now you're seeing practical examples of how you can use comparison operators to filter out data. Like here, I did not want to see all of the rows that my data table has. I just wanted when the south region performed really bad and the values were very less. So 20,000 housing units or less. So I gave it a condition and my query returned it the filtered way. That's where comparison operators are used. So you'll be seeing a lot of them everywhere because there's no going around SQL without where clause and these operators. The next thing is now, till now, we have worked with the numeric values, right? For example, now I want to see that I don't care about what the housing units were, but I want to see that at the beginning of each year when the holiday season ends, what were the housing unit then? Okay, which means that I specifically want the month name, the column month name, to be January. So for whenever you're using these character values, there's something which you need to keep in mind always, that as long as those characters or strings or words are not a part of the SQL ecosystem, that is, they're not database or some keyword or some column name, but they are some value which you are giving from in your head, some arbitrary value which does not depend on anything inside the system, but you can give anything. I can say month name equal to Akriti, right? So whenever you give such custom values, always include them in single quotes. Okay? This is called a string. It is used across all of the languages to express a string or a bunch of characters in together. But all of the other languages we can use single quotes and double quotes interchangeably, whereas in SQL, and I'll repeat this again because this is very important and people get stuck here. In SQL, sometimes you have such column names which also act as keywords, like select from where. So to differentiate, we use double quotes there. So SQL, the double quotes are reserved for column names. And whenever you are specifying an outside string value as a string of characters and not numbers, you need to keep it within single quotes, these single quotes. And so here, since I want the month just January, I'll say I want my month name to be equal to January. Okay, I'm using the comparison operator equal to here. Let's see what it does. Oh, sorry, cancel. Hmm. So now you can see that I am only getting the months which are January. For each of the years, I'm getting the months January. What this query did was it checked whether the particular row for its column month name has the value January or not. When it had the value January, this entire condition was evaluating to true. And once the condition evaluated to true, that row was included. However, when the month name say was February or March, when it checked whether the month name is equal to January or not, it returned the value false. This condition returned the value false. And then SQL was hinted that since the where clause is false, we need not include this row. So we should not be including the things which yield a false from our condition. This is how comparison operators are used. They compare the value of your table data with an external value which you have given, or it can be an internal value depending on how the query shapes up. But they compare two values, and in case those values satisfy the condition, that is, if one is less than or one is equal to the other, depending on what condition you have given, if it satisfies the thing, SQL moves ahead and keeps that row in the result. Otherwise, if it yields false, it excludes that row out of the result. Clear? I hope it is. Let's move ahead with another type of. So now we know that, okay, they wanted one month named February, we did for January. So now there is another set of operators available, which is the arithmetic operators. So what are arithmetic operators? We have all learnt arithmetics in maths. Arithmetic operators are nothing but plus, minus, into, divide, power. What they do is they operate on two different columns, and as a result of both of them, they create another value depending on whatever arithmetic operation you have performed on them. Like in this query here, I wanted the addition of two columns. So I said column name 1 plus column name 2, and whatever they yield, the resultant of their addition, which is the sum, would be produced or output as under the column name combined name. So what it does is it adds the value of column name column 1 and prints under the heading combined name for each of the rows. Whenever you get a table, a column out of a table which it did not exist in the original database, but you have some way manipulated the values to get another column, you call those columns as derived columns. Okay, keep that in mind, what are base columns and what are derived columns. Let's focus on a few of them. So for example, here we have, all of the regions, south, west, midwest, northeast. But where do we have the total housing unit for each month? We don't have it anywhere, right? So now what I'll say is that you select everything, but I also want something which sums up everything. So south, west, we have all these column names here: south, west, midwest, northeast, west, then midwest, then we have northeast, and all of these now I want them to be called as every time you're giving a new column name to something, you'll be using as. Every time you're giving some new name to any occurrence or any entity, you give it by the keyword as. As is also used to define aliases, like here. So I'll say total units. Let's see if this works. I don't want for January, I want for everything. Yes. So now you see I got my all of the previous columns which I already had, which is year, month name, south, west, midwest, northeast. And now I also have another added column here, total units here. Total units. And for all of you math Nazis here, I hope you are able to see that this total units is nothing but addition of all of these. So when you add the values in south, west, midwest and northeast, you get the total units, the value here. And how was this performed? Now this is performed for every row. A total sum of all of these 4 columns is generated for each row. And how was this generated? Because we told SQL to do this. So you take all 4 of your columns for each of the row and add it together and get the total unit. Correct? So all of this was added and the sum was stored under the column named total units, as we can see here. So I hope you're running these queries on your workstation as well, because that's how a programming language can be learned. You cannot learn it by looking at a lecture. This is not Netflix. So please get hands-on. I'm sharing the links continuously. Go master your craft by practicing it day in and day out. Okay. So this is tutorial housing units. We perform this. Now let's see. I am saying I have arithmetic operators, plus, minus, into, divide, everything. I want to see that what is the average unit, the region average unit. So what I'll do is I will add them. How is an average calculated? We take the sum of all of the things and then we divide by the count of those things, right? So I'll say total units, not average units. I'll say average units. So here we are making use of two arithmetic operators, one being plus and the second being division here. Now you'll be able to see I am taking the sum of all of the regions, getting the total units and all of the region together, and to get an average of the regions, a regional average, I am dividing it by 4, because the definition of average is you take the sum of something and you divide it by the count of those things. So average units for each month would be Now since I mentioned star here, everything is getting printed, all of the columns in my original database. So year, month name, south, west, midwest, northeast, everything. Other than that, I'm also getting an extra column, which when you look at it closely, is nothing but the average of all of these 4 values. So if you have a calculator anywhere near, you can quickly calculate the average of these 4 values, and you'll be able to see that to the 3rd decimal point, it will be very accurate, and this will be the average of all of the values. Okay? That's how we have used or deployed our arithmetic operators in order to calculate average units. Another extra metric or insight which we might want to have as a part of our data set. So yeah, this is where arithmetic operators are used, where you want to combine the value of 2 or more columns. Here we have made use of 4 columns. You can, if you just want the west part, you can say just west and midwest maybe, and you'll be able to get the total west columns or something like that. So you can change and tweak the parameters as you want to, but in general, arithmetic operators help you to have arithmetic operations on certain columns to get another derived column with a new value. Okay. In the next part of this series, we'll be making use of hi Sachin, I'm new to this channel. Which SQL am I teaching? Okay, I am teaching MySQL for now, Sachin. But if you learn closely the concepts, the syntax might be slightly different, but the concept is not as different. So you need not worry about the SQL version as much, but you need to worry about the concept which you're getting of SQL. Yes, the syntax and the functions vary here and there a little bit, that too, not a lot. But these things which I'm teaching right now, they don't vary no matter which SQL version you're using. So you can be sure of that. So for all of you joining, thank you so much. Today we learned about 2 types of operators, that is comparison operators, where we compared 2 values together and checked whether each one was less than, greater than, equal to or not. Then we tried creating new metrics and new insights out of the data which we already had using arithmetic operators. Now here when we were doing the comparison operator, we were straight checking with January, like whether the month name is equal to January or not. But sometimes what happens is that you just don't know that if you want a particular value, but you want a value like if I say that I have a student database and I want to say that I want to know the names of all of the students whose names start with A. Okay. So I cannot just explicitly say to SQL that, okay, I want equal to A. A what? So for that, we have something called pattern matching in SQL where you don't give it the exact value, but you give it a pattern, and every time the pattern is matched by the column value, those types of rows are extracted and given to you as an output. So that is what we'll be covering tomorrow. Same time, same channel, of course. And I hope this session was productive for you all. It was for me, and I had a great time. I hope so did you. Thank you all for joining. I was doing the data camp project but facing some issues while using limit. It is comfortable with top clause. Can you please tell why? Okay. I think different editors, these SQL IDEs have their own ways of doing things. I'm not sure why limit won't work, but can you check whether what is the SQL version they're using and if limit was supported or not? Then I feel that might be the issue, but I don't think anything else should be stopping, which should be limiting you from using the limit. Okay. Anyway, so this is what we did today, and tomorrow we'll be doing pattern matching, a very interesting concept, very frequently used concept. I hope I'll see you all there. For those of you who finished today's session and today's resources, I'm really proud of you. You have taken a step ahead in your data analysis journey. Keep yourself and other people accountable by announcing it publicly with the hashtag 15 days of SQL on Twitter or whatever sites you want to. It is a very good habit to use limit, Roshan, because that limits the search queries and it only gives you the important parts and reduces the time taken by each query. So it is a very good habit to use limit. You should be making use of it more. Next thing, thank you all for joining. I hope you had a good time, and go back, revise these concepts, make sure tweak whatever codes, practices, or questions I took here in these 30 minutes, and you can experiment with these. Code is all about experimenting. So experiment with these a lot, take a lot of questions, solve a lot of questions. I'll be giving you more and more questions as we progress ahead. And yeah, so tweet, solve, SQL, sleep, repeat. I am again not, I am using not, I feel, I'm sorry I took your name wrong. I am teaching MySQL currently. MySQL and Postgres are what I'll be using frequently. So yeah. Okay, I'll be ending the stream then. Does anyone else have any other queries? If you do, I'll be happy to take them up. If there are none, then we can end the live stream. Thank you for joining again. Hope I'll see you tomorrow, same time. Bye.